Welcome to the Knowledge Entrepreneurs Show, where we celebrate the innovators driving change in the education industry. At Edison OS, we've worked with over 500 knowledge entrepreneurs to turn their EdTech ideas into profitable businesses. Hi, Rohit. A very good afternoon and welcome to the Knowledge Entrepreneurs Show. Thank you so much for taking your time out and joining me on this podcast.
Thank you, Jagmohan. Thank you for calling.
Great. Rohit, I'd like to start off with this question. Can you walk us through your journey? It could be from childhood, because whatever you're doing now, let's say it could be Dux or anything that you did even before Dux, I think the entire journey has played a factor in some way or the other. And I think as we go ahead, all these things will fall into place and it'll be a nice context. So, yeah, if you can start off.
Interesting that you mentioned that because, I've been thinking about it for the last 6 months as to, how the first 15, 16 years of my life has shaped what I am today. And,
Right.
and you're right about it. It really has a very, very important role to play. In fact, the whole personality that I am today, whatever are the smoother surface on the edges, is all because of the childhood. So, yeah, I come from a very small place called Kishanganj. Kishanganj is in Bihar. It's on Bihar-Bengal border. Actually, three sides, is on Bengal and one side is on Bihar, in terms
Mm-hmm.
of border. Did my schooling from there. Uh, Palmandir Senior Secondary School. We used to say that proudly. It's the biggest school over there. Very, very amazing experience. At a time when you're studying in the school, you don't realize or understand how good the teachers are, but after a point, you start understanding it. So while it was a small place, the teachers were really good. Everything that today I am, my understanding of education, my understanding of different topics. I very proudly tell everybody, though I'm a commerce student, I can still go ahead and teach you anything related to science up till class 10th. I tell you how a DC-AC generator works and all of that, right? And
Right.
all of that is because of that. So yeah, I did my schooling from there. Then after doing my 12th, moved to Delhi to do my graduation from SRCC. Spent 3 years. Passed out in 2009. Not a great time to pass out if you're a commerce grad. I didn't get any job uh, for 6 months. It's around November 2009 when I joined Moody's. Copal Partners in the equity research team. I still remember as a young guy, I didn't even know how to use Excel, and I was a part of equity research team. And we can talk about that in detail. But very interesting journey. And then I joined KPMG. I just wanted to get some experience before I actually go ahead and do my MBA. After spending roughly 7 years in Delhi, moved to Pune to do my MBA from Symbiosis Institute of Business Management. Did my MBA in finance. So if you look at it, I'm a finance guy by education.
Right.
Had some tiff with the placecom in SIBM. Didn't get placement for internship as well. So managed internship on my own from Zoomcar. Zoomcar was
Right.
based out of Bangalore at that point of time. I spoke to Greg. Lovely conversation. Converted in one call. Came to Bangalore for my internship. Loved the environment. This was my first brush with startups. Greg asked me to continue as a consultant. I was getting good money as a student. 25K if you're making in B school, that's great money actually. So I
Yeah.
said yes. Loved the experience. Helped them set up their Pune office. Got a PPO as well. So while I was still doing my MBA, Greg asked me to join full time because he was raising Series B at that point of time. This is still Jan 2015 when I'm actively doing my MBA. But the
Right.
full time, I said yes. So used to attend office in Bangalore from Monday to Friday, fly down on weekends to Pune to take my classes that way. So started that way with Zoomcar. Was a part of the business finance team. Worked in the business finance team for roughly 18 months. Now,
Okay.
business finance is a very cross-functional role if you understand it really well. I was working very, very closely with the operations team, with the marketing team, with the product team, all of that, but mostly with the ops team at that point of time. So after spending roughly 18 months in the BizFin team, Greg comes back to me and asks me if I can take charge of the ops team. Uh, I was a scared guy at that point of time because, like I said, I'm a finance guy by education. And at this point, somebody comes to me and asks me if I can take charge of operations. Scary for me because I didn't know if I do that, who's going to give me job afterwards. My CV is going to become all
Right.
hodgepodge.
Right.
I had so Paritosh, who's a very big influence in my life, who's also my senior. I had a chat with him. I told him that, hey, I trust you and Greg really, but I need a promise from you, and this is something that he still pulls my leg for. I told him that, I'm going to do it. But in my relieving letter, when I moved out to Zoomcar,
I expected.
you please write that, I did finance here. Do not talk anything about ops because nobody's going to give me job. But the next 18 months in operations were life changing. Loved the experience. Did everything from, going to a site, cleaning the car, to actually writing PRDs and creating products, everything in between, city visits, creating systems and processes. Like I said, writing PRDs, talking to customers. A car has met with an accident. You get a call at 4 in the night, because the roadside assistance is not working, and this and that. Crazy experience for 18 months. And in my wildest dream, I couldn't think I would do that. But now, in my wildest dream, I cannot think of doing anything else. I cannot
Right.
think of moving back to finance. So yeah, another 18 months, Greg comes back to me, asks me if I can take charge of the marketplace vertical. Uh, Zoomcar had done certain, iterations of the marketplace vertical
Yeah.
in Zoom West, Zap 1.0, all of that. None of those experiments, unfortunately, worked as such. That's when I came in, started something called Zap Subscribe, which was India's first car shared subscription model. In fact, globally, the first shared subscription model. Very interesting journey. We created a very, very complicated business model, but made it really simple for the customer, scaled it up to roughly 10,000 cars, made it a 120 CR business within 18 months of launch. And this was my brush with, growth. So by this time, I'd done finance, operations, product, growth, all of it. Cleaned cars, created products, all of that. Except writing lines of code, I had done everything until this point of time. Crazy
Right.
experience. So I started talking to Greg around. This was around December 2019. I actually know December 2018 is when I started talking to Greg. And I wanted to move out because I was getting into a comfortable zone. I had been in the company for roughly 4 years, and by that time you would have earned enough equity in the company, so that somebody copies you in an email and things get done. I didn't want to be in that space at that point of my career, so I started speaking to Greg. Took me roughly 6 months to convince him, but by June he agreed to let me go. Thankfully, graciously he gave me 45 days of relaxing cool off period. Still paid me a decent amount of money, not my salary, but a decent amount of money just to take care of me. I took special permission from the board, but crazy. 45 days I spent, just relaxed. After which I joined Ola again into mobility. But my idea was I wanted to get into a bigger player, play a part in a larger org.
Right.
But that 1 year really taught me that I'm more made up for a smaller org. Not to say, because Ola at that point of time was more neither a startup nor a corporate. It was
Yeah. Yeah.
in that transitionary phase. But I loved working with Bhavish in whatever capacity I could. Launched Ola subscription, Ola Drive. Heading was also heading operations for them. So nice experience overall. After spending roughly 1 year at Ola, this is something that I always used to tell my wife that So I'm a Marwari Baniya guy, right? I'm the only person from my family to do a job, right? And the family scene. I'm not sure if you can imagine what happens
I
in that.
know. Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I used to tell my wife that this is probably one guilt that I'll die with, that I never did something of my own. All of a sudden, this is not thought through. All of a sudden, we took this plunge. We started something called Dux Education. Now, a lot of people actually have asked me, Zoomcar, Ola, all through mobility. What were you doing in education? So just to tell you, I don't know how to drive a car. Mobility is not my home ground. I still don't know how to drive a car. But
Oh,
I
are you
know all
serious?
about cars. Yes, I know all about cars. I can tell you kiska clutch acha hai. What would happen if a suspension breaks down? When, how, difference between anything and everything. Because I've handled operations as such. Education is home ground for me because this is what a small town education does to you. In my school, whenever
Mm.
the teacher was not present, we as seniors were sent to the junior classes to take classes. That's when I started teaching people. From grade ninth, I have been earning my pocket money by taking tuitions.
Right.
And that continued till over. So education is actually the home ground for me. So yeah, that's where we started Dux Education. Dux is essentially, if I have to polish it, an after-school online live tutoring platform for K-12 in the crudest and the most raw form. We take tuitions, as simple as that. Now in India, the schooling system is broken. It
Right.
would require a systemic change to bring change there. So we started this knowing that 55% of the Indian students go off for after school tuitions.
Right.
Now, when we entered, we looked at what different players are doing. We understood that, and we can talk about that in detail later on. that everybody else was being a complementary player, which means that if you had opted for one or the other player, you still haven't let go of your traditional tuitions. We wanted to become a substitute of traditional tuitions. So that's what
Right.
we did. Ran with the Dux for 3 years, and this is where we are right now at a transitionary phase again.
Got it, Rohit. Rohit, so before we, go into ducks, let's can you, go deep into, because I'm coming with this question from people, who are aspiring, or, who are aspirational. The starting point is the most difficult point for everybody. It's after 3 months, after 6 months, it's about, what you built so far and then running that. But how did you actually start off? How did you find there is so much to starting a startup, right? You need to get the right set of co-founders, and then you would have probably made an analysis of, okay, what businesses, or you might have had three options in front of you, and then you would have chosen Dux. And even in Dux, there would have been different business models. Can you walk us through in as much detail as possible as to how was the start of Dux? It all happened.
So interestingly, Dux, when we started thinking about it, was a completely different idea altogether, right?
Right.
Any startup, Chuck, and you would have spoken to enough people to know that is a very iterative process.
Yeah.
You don't go around creating a formula, optimizing that every day, and then come up with a magical product. It doesn't happen. It's an iterative process. Every day you're talking to five different people. Probably one out of that will become your co-founder as well, right? So like I said, education was always close to the heart, but where we actually wanted to operate was the upskilling side. I had done MBA, I knew it very well that Indian MBAs are as far from the real world job profiles as possible. So we wanted to bridge that gap. The idea was, at one end, open a consultancy firm which would work with the SMEs, right? Help them, create systems and processes. On the other hand, you give real life projects to these guys so that they can also get good experience and understand how real life work actually happens on the ground. And you end up making money from both sides, from this case from the B schools and from other side as a consulting fee. That was the idea.
Right.
Now, because I had been a student teacher myself, I started thinking deep about, hey, why is that MBA guy paying me? Can I create a source of income for him? So we thought, okay, those who are interested, can they teach MBA? Can they teach grads, undergrads? Can they take classes for those prepping for CA MBA? Can they take counseling for those kids, right? So they can make some pocket money. So we started working on that. Once we started working on that area, we started thinking about, hey, why is the undergrad paying somebody? Can he teach someone else? And that's when we ended up at K-12 when we said, hey, this is a huge market waiting to, and whatever had been done till that point of time was I mean not to discredit anyone, was not optimal as such. So that's why K-12 is a segment where the tech industry is still struggling, right? Nobody has found a form
Yes.
to ace it as such. So that's how iteratively we and by then, remember, we have already had discussion with like 20 B schools so far, a lot of undergrads, grads, postgrads. We are having those discussions. But once we arrived at this, and given that for a good part of my life I had personally taught these guys, and then my other two co-founders were also, the moment we arrived at this, there was an aha moment that, hey, this is the segment that we are most comfortable with. Let's go and focus just on this one. That's how we arrived at this segment. Now, once the segment had been arrived, uh, now if K-12 in itself is a huge, right? Are you
Yeah.
going to do K5? Are you going to do K5 to K10? Are you going to do K8, K12? Uh, are you just going to do one subject, let's say maths or maths or science, or are you also going to do Kannada and social studies? Are you just going to do curricular or extracurricular and co-curricular? It's the deepest point in the ocean, if I may call it,
Right.
right? So when we started, we said, hey, let's just start with curriculum based and co-curricular. We did an experiment for 6 months to understand the parent behavior. See, I have a very strong belief even the customer doesn't know what the customer wants. So no point of doing a research. So you actually have to get into the ground, do the work to understand, what really works. So we worked at it for 6 months. We did both the courses to understand what is their expectation. So, parents are really excited about co-curricular courses, but
Right.
their expectation is not aligned to the real product. For example, a parent would want you to come, they would be very excited for their kids to attend a communicative English class, But then their expectation is at the end of 30, 50 classes, the kid will, start speaking like a, kid born in US, which is not going to happen, right? There is no
Right.
magical form. So that's when we said, hey, this is a place where we'll have to teach them a lot about what to expect out of it. Let's not get into it right away. Let's get into curriculum based where the expectation is also set, because that is more practice based. That's more hygiene today, right? So we
Yes.
started with that next academic year. We just worked on that, but again, there were a lot of nitty gritties. For example, we realized that everybody else was doing MCQ based testing. So if you attend a live class, people will ask you to vote on A, B, C, D. There will be a graph telling that C is the right answer and 80% of the class did it right. We very well knew that this is not the ground that we want to. We want to make them practice. So even if a student is not doing practice, he can still click on C. In our classes, you have to actually solve and show the sum to the teacher. There are enough products in the class to show that to the teacher. So real life experiences, real life feedback, real time feedback, classwork, homework, preparation for UTs and midterm exams as well. All of that combined together is when we created this product. This is how we came to what we wanted to do. In terms of co-founder, it was honestly a very quick decision for us. Manika, who's my wife, we had been speaking about this because she has also been a student teacher. We had been
Right.
talking about it for a long time. So and she was on a break at that point of time. She was working with me when I was working on it, and it was a very natural progression for her. Fortunately, we have done enough work together earlier as well, so we're very comfortable because a lot of people get the dynamic of a husband wife working together really gets complicated, but we really enjoy working together.
Right.
On the other hand, Udit, my other co-founder, we worked together in Zoomcar for roughly 4 years together. Every chai sota break, we used to have discussion of doing something. He was the first call I made. I still tell him that, and Udit has like two kids.
Right.
Udit has a home on EMI, and it is a risky decision. But, the anything that he could have said no. But
Yeah.
the way I think about it is what could have gone wrong at that point of time potentially is me not asking him, thinking that he might say no. But the
Right.
moment I asked him, he put down his papers next week.
Okay.
He actually put down his papers before I did. I was the first one to, formally leave the job as such. Surprised me that ways. But yeah, the three of us, that's how we came together. The idea of selecting is not just because Udit and I had been discussing, and Manika and I, husband, we all three bring very, very different skill sets to the table. That was also looked
Right.
at that as well. The hierarchy in terms of, because if there are going to be three co-founders, we didn't want clashes, so it was very clear who has the last word on different areas of business, what skill sets are you bringing, equity division, all of those was very, very amicable. So yeah, that's how we closed on that. That's what for the first 2 months looked.
Great. So you said 2020 June is when you kind of, started the entire operations. Um, w- when did you start ideating, and how long did it take for you to iterate and arrive at this? Okay, this is what we're going to do.
um this is something, it goes both ways when I answer this question.
Okay.
The aha moment that I spoke about when we said this is a
Yeah.
big was 23rd June. 23rd
Okay.
June around 10 p.m. At 11 p.m. Udit, me and Manika are discussing this. And 24th June, 1 a.m. is when the Facebook page goes live.
Okay.
So we had seen enough of it. It's not something where we did like 6 months of research. We're also very execution high people. So
Right.
we went directly into execution mode as well because we knew that this is what we wanted to do. Uh, there is enough market, for like 5 players in K12. We knew that, and we knew that the market is not made, so there was limited challenge as such. So yeah, so it was that quick. My answer is not that we worked at it for 3 months as such. Obviously, when we went live, it also meant that for the next 3 months or 6 months, we're just trying to understand the customers.
Of course.
But
Yeah.
there was our research was actually on the ground when we
On
were
the
talking
ground
to
when
people,
you
talking to
got it.
students, talking to parents, talking to teachers. That's how we arrived at it. The final product. After we had said no to co-curricular courses and we'll only do curriculum based, came out in the next session starting April 2021. But till
Got it.
then, we were just iterating, constantly.
Got it. Got it, Rohit. Rohit, you said the first idea was for you to start a consultancy where you would consult with SMEs and then have the MBA students get hands-on experience. That's how you were looking at bridging the gap, right? So I was meaning more like from this idea, then you go down, 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 and then that's how you go to K-12. You All this happened within a span of a couple of days, or this took a month or two?
This took roughly a month, because remember, like I said, right, when we were talking about consulting and MBA grads, that side of business, we had already spoken to roughly 20 B schools at that point
Yeah,
of
yeah,
time,
right, right.
right? So we had done some work. So from there to actually doing this was roughly a month, roughly 45 days.
Got it, Rohit. Rohit, you said, you can do as much research as you want, but at the end of the day, what you do on the ground, if there is quality and value, it's going to have its own journey. But I'm sure you did your research for you to be able to zero down on K-12, and not probably you started off at a very high level. You're talking about 20s, 23, 25 year olds, and then now you're down to, like, say, 12-year-olds, right? So what kind of research went into it, and what was the rationale behind this? Because yes, the market of K-12 is very good, but when you look at the people you deal with when they're in 20s, no, you don't have to deal with their parents. It's a lot more easier in certain ways. So how did you weigh the pros and cons between these two, and what made you, is it just the market size that made you come to K-12?
No, no. The aha moment was not based on market size. It was more
Okay.
based on founder market fit, as if I would have to say it.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
That was the key criteria. Those were the markets that we're trying to tinker with. This is a market that we understood. Udit has kids. He has taught. Monica
Right.
has taught.
Right.
I have been teaching for 16 years now.
Right.
So, I mean, from day one, we didn't. There was no point that, after a month we realized something else. Day one, we knew that the customer and the consumer are two different people. Right? The customer is the parent, the consumer is the student.
Right.
What would be the expectation? Because we had spoken to so many parents in our life, right?
Right.
Udit himself is a part of his school groups. He knows what the parents are talking about. We knew what the parents are talking about because we have been teaching and actively teaching so far. So yeah, that's why. Uh, you know,
Got it.
founder market fit is how I would put it.
Got it, Rohit. So, June 2020 to your first formal product launch, say, which is 2021 April. What is the evolution like? Where did you start? What are the changes, the iterations that Dux underwent?
Um, So obviously, started with calling of parents ourselves, setting up trials, blocking Google calendars of everybody, and realizing, hey, parents don't even have Google calendars. Google calendars, which is like a default app on our phones, parents don't even have it. Right? Realizing that sending them manually WhatsApp messages to thanks to you guys, a fully blown product by April, where everything was automated. During this period, if yeah, and this is going to help you understand what we are doing now and why we are doing it the way we are doing it. As
Right.
during this period, while every single product focuses on customer facing products, our focus from day one was when we go out with a fully blown product out of beta, we have to have right systems and processes. So our focus was more back end than front end. So even if you look at the kind of products that we did, they were more, what are the class ratings? Are we getting alerts if the teacher is not joining on time? We're not trying to beautify things for the parents, right? We didn't say, hey, we can't take classes on Zoom. We need to have our own video platform. No, there's no point reinventing the wheel for that. But everything, all systems and processes, and also because we come from a heavy ops background, right? Our first evolution was the whole systems and processes, the whole backend was set from day. So that was the evolution in terms of class reminders, automatically, setting up trials, teacher payout, managing that, teacher onboarding, training teachers. All of the focus was there in the first 6 9 months as such. Other than that, obviously, like I said, from day one, we decided that if there is no point if we also have to do MCQ based analysis, we have to do classwork. Now, how do you do classwork as a student? If I show you something like this here, how will a teacher check? It doesn't make it easy for the teacher to check. So we started with community, did a hacky product to begin with, but by April we completely productized this behavior as well. So yeah, but all product development happened on the back end side in the first year.
Got it. And when you started off, the first set of parents that you called, so what was your approach towards getting the leads? Was it paid social media ads?
No. So in the beginning, what we did in the first 6 months was completely a function of our network and the network of our network. So we were putting, WhatsApp, we were blasting, we were spamming everybody's WhatsApp uh, box, right? WhatsApp chat. We're putting our statuses, requesting our family and extended family members to put WhatsApp statuses, requesting our friends, and not just friends, the family, friends, families as well, to put, WhatsApp. And everybody was so supportive at this point of time. So that played really well. We did a couple of hacky things. We created a couple of videos where, Bollywood stars are talking to each other. And how do you do that? What we did was, Udit, me, Manika, and a couple of other, friends. We changed our names in our contact book, so it looks like, probably Kareena Kapoor, Saif Ali Khan, Akshay Kumar, and Priyanka Chopra are talking to each other. Hey, where is the kid going to study, and all of that. Those really helped us. I mean, at that point of time, we saw 100% jump on our base just based on such two videos, and that's just a screen recording of us talking to each other, and we are having a blast while doing it. Right? It's not planned. We're just talking to each other. So yeah, that kind of stuff in the first 6 months. The social media ads was way later in the journey when we raised our pre-seed from Malpani Ventures. After that, what we did, we started focusing on distribution. So we partnered with society management apps like Adda, Apna Complex, and MyGate, and we got
Right.
listed there as exclusive partners. They also gave us enough leads to begin with, and very, very cost effective. Then we went to affiliate marketing, email marketing, all of that, and after that came digital.
So Rohit, when you started off, did you have a curriculum in mind? Because I'm not sure how it works across India, but at least in Karnataka, it is state syllabus, it is CBSE, it is ICSE, and then there is IGCSE and IB as well. There's a So you just went, you looked at taking the entire year's syllabus and completing. What was your positioning like? Or you were just, look, buy 5 classes from us, at that point in time, whatever the doubt, whatever doubt the kid has, we're going to solve that. What was your approach like?
So in terms of board, we were catering to CBSE and ICSE. CBSE and ICSE were completely different batches altogether, because the curriculum is very different. Also because these are the widest and the broadest category of boards. And by default, if you're catering to CBSE, you also get to cater to more than 10 state boards, because those 10 state boards are also following NCRT boards.
Right.
Right? So there is no change in syllabus. In terms of our approach was very, very simple, right? If you go take a tuition today, uh, you don't go and opt in for 5 classes, 10 classes, 50 classes. If you go and opt in for tuitions, you go and opt in for tuitions because you want to be helped with your unit term exams, annual exams. So if I complete a syllabus in the first 50 days of the month of the year, what are you going to do for the remaining 300 days? Because education is a function of practice. So we said we are going to teach you around the year, right? But we are going to give you monthly subscription, so you're not bounded by it. So
Right.
we replicated the offline tuition model here, where you pay month on month, and we keep on teaching you basis the syllabus that you have. So we kept that very simple. I mean, unnecessarily, we didn't complicate any stuff on that side.
Got it. Rohit, in the start, you said, others were kind of supplementing the existing traditional tuition work and they were not replacing it. And you said you were replacing it. So can you just elaborate the difference between the two?
Interesting. So if you look at the after school education market, you have to, like I said, customer and consumer are two different entities here. You
Right.
have to see
Right.
things from the customer's point of view, right? You go and talk to any parent. What would a parent want? Hey, I want somebody to pay attention on my kid,
Mm-hmm.
right? I want my kid to understand the concepts, and as bad as it might sound, I want my kid to perform well in exams, right? Because that also impacts the confidence of the kid.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
when I say exams, I don't just mean annual exams. I also mean midterm exams and unit tests.
Right.
Now, if you look at what is happening in the edtech market in India, people are actually copying one of the two. Either the test prep market, because there are certain players who have done really well in IIT JEE prep, CAT prep, and then they're replicating that to K12. This is a
Hmm.
complete segment, which means they're doing one to many classes, one way broadcast based classes, right? And so which won't work, right? As a kid, you won't take that. Or they're copying China based models where they have a two teacher model. If you have a doubt, you put it in the chat box, which really doesn't happen. A kid is habituated of raising their hands
Yeah.
and asking, I did not understand this. If I type I did not understand this in the chat box, the context of this has already moved because the teacher hasn't stopped for you,
Right.
right? On top of all of this, Even the one of the problem with India's curriculum is two CBSE schools next to each other, right? Following the same book, might have the same syllabus for annual exams, but their syllabus for midterm exams and UTs are
Will be
different.
different. Yes.
Now, when you are taking one too many classes, when you have hundreds of students in a class, how are you going to help each and every student with their midterm exams and unit tests?
Right.
And because you cannot help them with their midterm exams and unit test, parents cannot let go of their traditional tuitions because this is the guy who's going to help them with their midterm exams.
Yeah.
So day one, when we decided that, hey, we are going to take the curriculum route, we said that if we cannot solve for this midterm exams and unit test, there is no point of us existing. We were very clear about it. We called in syllabus from 50 different schools, studied those syllabus, created a system, and said, let's work with this. So we were the only player in the country to be able to. So obviously smaller batches, so we are helping with attention, live feedback, classwork, practice-based pedagogy. On top of that, the only platform in the country which can help you with midterm exams and unit tests. That's how we became a substitute. Others were complement because you cannot let go of traditional tuitions in those cases. In our case, you can. That's why I say that.
Brilliant. And so, what was your typical batch size, Rohit?
We did a lot of experiment and then finally closed on a max student strength of 10 in a batch. That was from
Okay.
grade 5 till 12. For grade 1 to 4, because the kids are way too young with very limited attention span, we were only doing one-on-one for grades 1 to 4.
Makes sense. And when you have 10 people, and when you're also solving the problem of making sure that you're teaching them what is in the unit test, now, did you make sure those 10 people were from the same school? Or were you in touch with the school to figure out, the syllabus is going to be the same?
No, no. So we didn't. So when I said, when we looked at the syllabus of 50 different schools, that's when we found out a pattern. We did,
Okay.
enough. Data is one of our strongest suits. So
Right.
we looked at the data. We broke it not just by the name of the chapter, but by topic, subtopic, and at that level, right? So if you look at it, if I had to give you an example, open any maths book, right? Grade 5, 5th to 10th or anything. The first 2, 3 chapters that you will see in the book are of number system. Then there will
Right.
be algebra, then you would have mensuration, geometry, and some data related. That's how the chapters are structured.
Right.
Now, number system is related. I mean, you cannot teach anybody HCF LCM before you have taught them factors and multiples and prime factorization.
Correct.
Similarly, for algebra, until and unless I have taught you about the a plus b whole square and all of that, I cannot move you to quadratic equation. Chapters are linked that way, so I cannot skip. But geometry, I can go ahead and teach you triangles before teaching you circles, or
Right.
I can teach you circles before. So if you go, and when we looked at the syllabus, what we realized was people are picking up 1 or 2 chapters from number system, but you cannot do 1, 3. You always have to do 1, 2.
Correct.
Similarly, from algebra, the difference was mostly coming in geometry,
Correct.
right? Similarly, in science also, the first 3 chapters are of physics, then bio, then chemistry. That's how it is.
Right.
Even if the books are not separate, that's how you. So you will see chapter 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 or 1, 2, 3, 4, 7. That's how the difference is. We found 80% overlap,
Right.
right? And that's when we said, hey, while the school is doing 4 chapters, we have to do 6 chapters in the same time span, and we'll be able to cover it. We did not try to optimize for 10 students bringing them from the same school because we said,
Mm.
"Oh, this is the worst scenario possible. At our when you have lesser traffic, you don't optimize for that. But we said this is only going to get better. As my volume increases, I can obviously get all the students from the same school. So instead of having students from 10 different schools in a batch, I'll have from 3 different schools. So if I can solve for the worst situation possible, that's a cake for me,
Right.
right? So we went ahead, we did this. The only challenge now at this point of time was in the same time that the school is doing 4 chapters, you have to do 6 chapters.
Right.
Now, how do you do that? Now, go back and think about your school. It's a 45-minute class. In most of the classes, the teacher would give you 1 or 2 sums to solve and then keep on checking comments. It's a very, very suboptimal,
Yeah.
ineffective process.
Right.
In our case, the classes move at a faster speed. Also, remember the teachers are more motivated to teach on our platform because they're getting paid way higher than what they're getting paid at schools, which is another cause of the systemic issue in the schools, and I'm not going to get into that right at the moment,
Yeah.
right? So we realized that we can comfortably take 8 chapters when the school is doing 4. Doing 6 means having enough time left for revision as well.
Right.
So we did that brilliantly in that point of time, in the worst possible scenario of having 10 students from 10 different schools.
Brilliant. Great. After you've explained it, it sounds pretty simple, but yeah, definitely
Yeah,
a problem to solve this.
one belief, all business models are simple. Jack. I mean, you look
Yeah.
at any business model in the world. I spoke about Zap Subscribe as a business model that's very simple. What we are doing at Dux is probably one of the simplest. Businesses
Right.
are tough,
Right.
right?
The whole way you run an execution, probably,
That's what.
executing those simpler things are where, things are
Yes.
probably.
Yes.
Rohit, just digressing a little bit now, going a little back now. Now, you said you started this 2020 June, which is the peak of the pandemic. Now, I just want to know, because you started off directly online, it was not like a hybrid model or something like that. How much of a role did pandemic have in this business model, or was it a mere coincidence?
Um. So, like I said, right, 45 days prior to that, we started working on something else. The role that pandemic had um, was just giving us enough free time to think about it.
Okay.
Right. I was at Ola, like I said, the cab utilization at Ola was almost at all-time low. Very minimal work to do, and that's when we started to get on it. That's when we began. Uh, Other than that, it's mere coincidence. I mean, I think I was born to work in education that way at one point of time. I've been working
Okay.
on that for a long time.
Right.
Even if I had to do something today, or I wouldn't still go for hybrid. People change their perspectives. I might also
Yeah.
in future, but even today, I think to solve for scale and actually to solve for impact, and impact comes from reaching the deepest corners of the country.
Yeah.
Even in terms of impact, online is the solution. Right? We'll
Right.
have to make it more effective and not say that now online doesn't work, only hybrid is effective. I don't believe that. We'll have to figure out, and you need not even come up with the most perfect solution. It has to be better than what exists, and then you keep on bettering that. Is how I would approach. But yeah, that's the role to answer your question. The pandemic played. I
Got it.
mean, if you look at it, sorry, if you look at it, had it been opportunistic for us, the pandemic, hey, let's do this, we wouldn't have left our high-paying jobs at that point of time. We actually took. I mean, we haven't been making any money for the last 3 years, and we're coming from really, really posh jobs, well cushioned jobs, to say all three of us,
Right.
right? It was a lot of risk to take at that point of time.
Got it. Got it. It was only
Hmm.
situational, if I can say. It was not like pre-planned. You wanted to do something, and it happened to be during the pandemic, and online was the way to go.
Yeah, yeah, just
You had
got
no
some
choice.
pandemic. Yeah,
You had no choice. And now you believe that online is the way to go. Also, as you rightly said, impact is about reaching the remotest corners, because it's always one of the most paradoxical thing is, look, cities are the cities are the places where you have access to a lot of things. At the same time, cities are the places where tools are also enabled very
yes,
easily. But it should be the other way around, right? The remotest of places are the ones where access is difficult, and therefore online should be the way to go. But
exactly.
sometimes just doesn't happen that way. But anyway, that's a thought for another time.
Mhm.
Now, Rohit, another important thing that comes into picture is, you said you handled grade 1 to 4 also, and then grade 5 to grade. There's not, to be honest, not much difference between a grade 4 student and a grade 5 student. Now, whereas at grade 4, you're just doing 1 to 1, whereas grade 5, you're doing a little, it could be 5 to 1, 10 to 1, whatever it is. It's still a challenge for the teacher, especially holding their attention while doing online. This was the time when schools were exposed. Schools were having a horrid time of continuing their online classes and stuff like that. So how did you said, and also you said you were focusing mainly on the back end process, getting your basics right and not beautifying things, not going too fancy. Two-part question this. How did you arrive at the mode of teaching online, right? Say for example, it's vastly different, right? Standing in front of a blackboard and teaching is very different as opposed to using Zoom and teaching. So how did you solve for this whole, if I can say, logistical issue? while still the second part is what did you do for making sure, because your LinkedIn profile reads one interesting thing that I saw was engagement is something that you really looked at. How did you solve for both of these things?
Um, to answer your first question, right? Um, One, obviously, there is going to be an inflection point at any point of time, right? So
Right.
if I were doing like one-on-one for grade 6, you would have asked grade 7, so why are you having batch? Because there's
Right, right.
that's always going to happen. So you have to take that call.
Yeah.
So that's where we took the call. We didn't want to confuse people a lot. There was at one point of time a discussion that 1 to 4 will do one-on-one, grade 5 and 6 will do 1 to 5, and then we'll do 1 to 10.
Slight transition. Right.
Yes, but we didn't want to confuse people as such. To be honest, we're happy with 1 to 10 for grade 4 students as well.
Okay.
But then we said let's be a little cautious, and
Mhm.
let's just only do one-on-one for these guys. So we were ready for fourth, we did it for fifth. That ways, right? In terms of holding their attention, we were very cautious of the fact that we should not go and look at what others are doing, because it does impact your brain, the way it thinks, right? We just said that it really doesn't matter. Let's not even look at the best player in the world. Let's reimagine how it should be done, right?
Mm.
Now we never saw education as online or offline. We speak about it though. For us, education is education. So how should a
Right.
teacher teach? For impact and engagement, a teacher should have high energy in the class,
Right.
and a teacher should be active in the class. When I say active, he should be writing on the board. Now, how do you solve for teachers writing on the board in an online class? So
Yeah.
we looked at what should be done,
Mm.
and then we figured out a way to do it rather than what can be done. We looked
Right.
at what should be done. So for every small thing like this, for example, our teachers never read out of a PPT. That becomes really boring also for the
Yeah.
teacher.
Yeah.
We started live board work. Now that also evolved over a period of time. To begin with, it was the phone's camera tied to a chair and a physical whiteboard where the teacher was writing, to Zoom's whiteboard, to our own whiteboard, which was integrated on the teacher design product, where the teacher with AI, the teacher, if they wanted to draw a horse, they could draw something like a horse. The system
Right.
would predict it's a horse, and it would be a beautiful horse appearing on the screen. And the
Right.
boardwork at the end of the session would automatically be saved on the students' dashboard, so that they don't have to make notes while the teacher is
Notes.
doing it,
Right.
right? So all of this evolved over a period of time, but the fundamental thought process was the teacher will do live board work in the class.
Got it.
Similarly, the fundamental process was the student will also, I mean, for subjects like social studies, for subjects like English, right? I cannot let you do ABC. You have to write it down. The practice of writing is very important.
Yeah.
So you started with, okay, they will write. They started by showing it on the camera. Then they started by sharing it on Telegram. And then they, went on to a private and a public mode, because even when you're sharing on the Telegram, 9 other students know what you have answered.
Right.
That's when we moved to a public and private mode, where when you are sharing, it's in a private mode, but the teacher could show it to everybody that, look at Jug's answer. This is how all of you should be answering. The
Right.
teacher can at real time see what you're doing and give you kudos while you are at it. Or, and real time could go and give you a feedback. No, this is where you're going wrong. Work on this now.
Right.
Right. So everything was evolutionary that way. But the fundamental principle being what should be done, and then figure out a way to do it.
You went as near to the physical classroom as possible while doing it online. That's
Again,
that's
no. No, not exactly, right? Like I said, uh, like we were very cautious about not picking up things from what other online players are doing. We're also very cautious of not picking up what has been happening so far. We just
Hmm.
reimagine everything. Obviously, a lot of that reimagination is not going to be so quirky that it's a completely new product. What
Right.
it
Right.
did help us with was, picking up the best from both the worlds.
Got it.
So, for example, in a physical setup, there is no way for you to judge how the teacher is teaching. There's no
Right.
way for you to go back and see, okay, what did sir say that at that point of time I couldn't pay attention. So that's
Right.
when we said recordings are important. It will be there. Though the
Right.
recordings is boring, but it will be there. The ratings will be there. The boardwork has to be saved. Right? That's where the online and tech becomes more powerful and start aiding your traditional physical way. But in a very, very simple way to put it, we brought the best of both the worlds together.
Right. Rohit, there is another thing. Now, see, In a classroom, right? One of the other differences between a classroom and an online thing is, in classroom it's a controlled atmosphere. The student is in your ground, right? But in an online class, the student is sitting at home. uh, you can only control so much. You can control your teachers things, you can control how you do things, but how did you ensure there is commitment from students side? Was it simple communication to parents, or did you employ any other tech?
Can you define that commitment and control for me? What exactly do you mean?
Commitment from parents that they're not going to be disturbing the students, not simple distractions, right? Somebody walking around, or taking something. Just look, as adults we can get distracted, and kids, you don't even have to say. And so giving them that atmosphere where they feel that they are in the middle of this online class, and they are left alone. And of course, if they had cell phones with them, making sure they were not accessing any cell phones or secretly doing stuff like that. This is what I would think of commitment and control.
So, two, three things. As ideal as it sounds, we also need to understand that not all families would have a completely dedicated room for the
Yeah,
kids.
yeah.
It becomes
That's
really difficult, and we need to understand that. Now,
yeah,
these are real practical understanding that you would have when you speak to a lot of parents, when you actually go to their home. And with our platform, we are actually inside probably hundreds of households at one point of time,
yeah.
right? So there are two things here. One, a promise from the parents that one is a communication to the parent that as a parent you are responsible for your kids. Education is a collaborative journey, and we do this really well during our onboarding session. So we are trusting you to provide the best possible environment to your kid. A best possible environment, give them a corner where nobody comes and disturbs. Ensure that the younger sibling is not coming in the class and disturbing the kid. Ensure
Right.
that the Wi-Fi connection is stable. All of that. Right. Two, anything that happens at your home and your kid that gets disturbed, we don't want that, but that's in your control. But if due to that other kids are getting disturbed, we don't take that lightly. So as a platform, we were not a consumer pleasing platform. So I am aware of platforms where you have to get good marks to students because the teachers incentive is also linked to that, and the parents also likes it. As a platform, what we did was, if the student, for example, doesn't keep the camera on and we haven't received an approval from the parents, the teacher can remove the student from the platform and a warning goes to the parent.
Mm, got
These
it.
kind of things we initiated, right? We did, and the parents also loved it, right? As a platform, what we did was, we if the student doesn't join the class on time, the parent gets a notification that your kid hasn't joined the class. If
Right.
the student doesn't, to ensure that we have his enough attention in the class, if the teacher, that's why constant doing sums is also important. If the student is not responding, the teacher with just one click can send a WhatsApp message to the parent,
Right.
right? So all of these solutions came in. Obviously there is monthly feedback, there are PTMs on top of it, so
Of course.
multi-layered solution, so to say.
Yeah, yeah.
But all of this brought together solved for it. We were a serious platform. We said education is a serious business, you're not here to play, right? The teachers had all the right. The students had to talk with certain respect to the teachers. Keep your video on, keep your audio on. If there's something, the parents have to take approval and all of that. So a lot of disciplinary tech solutions too, and process also.
No, makes complete sense. You can lay out a list of policies and rules as a company, but I think everything falls into place the moment you start acting. 30 days, when you start acting, or walking the talk, I think it's pretty evident for the parents also. They're like, hey, you know what? Last time this happened, I don't want this to be repeating next class, kind of
Exactly,
things.
exactly. And parents also like it. It was a welcome change for them because nobody was earlier talking to them. The only time people were talking to them was during sales and actually
Right,
making them feel bad at that point. And this was a platform for them where the conversations, the amount of communication actually increased manyfold when the process actually started, when the kid actually joined the platform. You're getting
right.
monthly feedbacks, you're getting intermittent feedbacks. If the kid is getting 10 out of 10 in the class, you're getting a creative for it, and the parents were actually putting it on WhatsApp as proud. If they're doing bad, you're also the teacher is calling in a PTM, talking to the parent. So it was a welcome change for them as well.
Great. Rohit, again, going back a little bit more to address another thing. So you said you started off, then, you started calling and all those things. So when you started, were you just three people, or you had hired teachers, where you three would take care of the onboarding business? So how did you deal with that initial days?
In terms of teaching, honestly, we didn't take much of the classes ourselves. We were just
Okay.
filling in because there was a lot of other things to do. There's just one course that we curated in house, very very close to the heart, called Curious. So those are the sessions that I took personally. But other than that, we're not taking classes. For taking classes, it was teachers.
Right.
Other than that, everything else was done by us, or a small team that we had hired.
Got it. And what was the hiring process like? How did you find the teachers? What was your filtering process? How did you decide that, okay, fine, this teacher can represent, because they're representing ducks at the end of the day, and
It's all about teachers. It's
it's
all
all about
about
teachers, right?
it's all
Yeah.
about teachers. Actually, it's a teacher-led platform, so to say. When
Yeah.
you do live classes, you're right about that. So we're clear about two, three things. We wanted school teachers in the first place.
Okay.
Uh, Reason being that, uh, if you look at any other platform, teaching is more like a performance thing,
Right. Right. Yes.
right? For us, it was going to be real teaching. You have to check and all of that. So we wanted school teachers. We wanted good school teachers. Two, we're looking at teachers with whom the kids could feel a certain level of relatability. Once you can relate to a teacher, once you establish that relationship, then the game is 80% won, because the kid will also be interested in studies at that point of time.
Right.
So that's what we did. Now in school teachers, and we were really scared when we said that we were going to do this, because my confidence on school teachers was not that high when
Yeah.
you come, right?
Yeah.
But I have been very, very surprisingly, challenged in my assumption with respect to this. Indian school teachers are amazing, and I'm not talking about school teachers from Delhi and Bangalore and Mumbai. I'm talking about school teachers from very, very small cities who
Right.
can actually, and these are teachers who teach students up to grade 8, but can answer, cat level quant questions, and not because they have seen it. They're trying to work it out, trying to needle thread, step by step, walk through the problem step by step, trying to deconstruct it. And the way they did it was very very impressive. So it was a 4 level process. Once is obviously, you submit the application, the team looks at your application, then there is a video round, there is a tech round, and then the final round with the founders, all three of us, where we ask different questions. So that's how we did it. Some HR behavioral aspects, but mostly how logically competent are you. And if you're a school teacher, then we know that you can handle students really well. So yeah, these are some of the filters.
Got it. And you would hire teachers only for one subject. Like, if it's a maths teacher, then they would only be teaching maths, not any other
Except for
subject.
grades 1 to 4, where we're doing one-on-one.
Right.
The teachers were your typical teachers who take like 3 subjects over 5 days a week. But grade fifth onwards, yeah, one teacher, one subject. We didn't want to confuse the student that Jagsar teaches maths here and teaches science there. Whatever your expertise is, because you're always
Yeah.
expert in one thing. That's what
Yeah.
you were.
Yeah. Got it. Rohit, very interesting when you mentioned that you were surprised. You were not very confident about the school teachers, but then you were surprised. Uh, Anybody, I think, or at least I'm not surprised that you were surprised. And the reason I want to talk about this is just a little digression, but it's a very significant thing to talk about. I to speak to I do have a few school teachers in my circle, and they are not very happy. What I want to ask you is this: do you think schools are not using the teachers the way they are supposed to be used? Are teachers being made to do things that teachers are not fit for, and hence the perception about teachers in schools being disinterested?
Some of it, yes. Some of
Okay.
it, no. So if you look at it, right, on an average, a teacher spends roughly 8 to 10 hours in the school. I
Right.
mean, they would reach the school 1.5 hour before the school actually starts, leave 1.5 hour after the school ends. And on an average, they get paid what, 10, 15,000. That's where the problem is, right? Teaching in India is not a job anybody aspires to do, unfortunately. It's a
Yeah.
job that you're stuck with.
Yeah.
I took on to teaching for pocket money.
Yeah.
When I didn't find a job after my graduation, I took to teaching again.
Yeah.
It's like your last haven, so to say, right? Not to say that you have unfit teachers, you have just demotivated teachers because you're not
Demotivated.
paid.
Right.
You're just not paid enough. If that and this is for the same reason, the same teachers when they teach outside the school
Yeah.
to 30-40 students in a batch, their performance is top notch
Right.
because they're not motivated enough, right? And that's why when they teach on our platform, they're motivated enough. That's one. Two, obviously, nobody seems to be caring about teacher training at all. Why?
Right.
Why? I mean, at this point of time, for example, all the schools should be training teachers hard on things like ChatGPT. Why
Yeah.
are they not doing it?
Yeah.
I know some of the teachers who are exploring it on their own. We keep on sending materials to our teachers. We have done 2 sessions already because we want to include it.
Right.
Right, and we have embedded a layer in our community for ChatGPT where the students can interact. Right, it reduces their time as well. So teacher training is another aspect, and then obviously on top of it, you're made to do a lot of manual tasks, unnecessarily admin tasks. When the schools went online, if you look at any LMS solution that the school uses, all the solutions are always focused on the students and the parents. And if you go and ask your teacher friends, what you will realize is they have to do double the work now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whatever they're doing offline, that hasn't been taken back. You have to do that online as well,
Yeah.
right? So lot of systemic issues as such, which is why they're demotivated. But yeah, I would 100% say that money is number one reason.
Yeah. And also, if you kind of unburden them from all the other things, and if you just let them do their core skill, I think it's going to only get better.
Which is what
Um,
we did in our platform, by the way. So unlike any
right.
other platform, the teachers were not made to sell. We don't ask teachers
Yeah.
to get more students. No, you're not the salesperson. Demand is my job. I'll get it done for you. All I
Yeah.
ask is when there is a trial class, you teach the students well.
Yeah.
That's it. The job is teaching. That's it. Teach, check, teach, check. We don't have them, fill like 5 different forms, all of that. Like I said, right, we focused on getting the backend right in the first version of the product. 90% of that backend was focused on teachers.
Right.
How can we, as I mean, it's like what Richard Branson said, right? You focus on your employees, the customers will be happy. We focus on teachers so that the students are happy. As
Students are happy. Brilliant. Rohit, when you started off, were you prepared to burn money to while you set the process, or were you juggling between, not burning money, trying to break even as much as possible while still setting up the systems and processes? This is a very first thought that comes to people who would like to start up, right?
I'll
When
give
they're
you
not
an
looking at
honest
capital
answer.
and stuff like that. Yeah, sure.
For the first 6 months, we were in a confused state. We didn't know, whether we want to become a sustainable business as such, or do we
Right.
want to become, um, for the lack of any other word, startup. Right? We didn't know what path to take.
Okay.
After 6 months, when once we took that curriculum based and the route that we are at right now, uh, while we were trying to raise venture capital, we were trying to do things sustainably, not crazily burn money, and not that we raised crazy sums of amount to actually burn that kind of money. But anyways, given our background, we were very frugal in every sense. That ways, we went to the market with an hypothesis that people know about online education. You just need to go out with a better product, and that will fly. Maybe slowly, but that will fly. So you might have to burn some money, but some money, not a crazy amount of
Not a
money.
crazy amount of money.
What we realized after a year and a half is the market, instead of being made, is rather unmade. You have to do double the work of establishing trust. People are disconnecting call because they're just not interested in online
Yeah.
education.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you have to do double the work. Hey, I'm not like this.
Yeah.
This.
Yeah. Yeah. So and so and so.
I'll
Yeah.
do homework as well. I'll do classwork as well. I'll do 10 other things for you.
Yeah.
And which meant that you had to do the market making exercise, which means that for the business to also justify our cost at one point of time, you'll have to burn a lot of money because market making is a cash burn exercise,
Right.
right? So at this point of time, when we realized, we tried to raise a significant amount of cash, which we're not able to. But yeah, this is the point where we realized.
Got it, Rohit. Rohit, let's forget the current situation. Let's go back to when to 20 early 2021, when you kind of figured out probably that 6 months you were confused, and then there was a little bit of clarity and stuff. If you have to, for people who are aspiring, to do something like what you're doing, which comes across very organic, right? You're not creating something, you're not creating a fake demand, you're actually solving an existing problem in the most organic way possible. If you have to share funding 101, from a very systematic point of view, like, yes, you've solved the problem, you're giving value and all those things, but if you have to get those basic things ticked for you to start off to go and ask for money from somebody and be eligible also, how would you summarize that? A basic one-to-one, if you have to tell
So
people.
just to be clear, you're asking funding 101 and not business 101 because both are not same.
Yes, yes, yes. I'm asking you. Okay, let me rephrase my question. What right you need to do in your business for your funding to kind of click? If I can say
Not
that, both, if
necessarily.
you have to bring it in a balance.
Not
No, I'm not. I'm
necessarily.
not. Let me clarify something. I'm not asking just funding 1-to-1. I know what you meant. No, no,
Uh-huh.
that is not what I'm asking about. Doing all right things just to get funding. No, that's not where I'm coming from.
Mhm.
Probably something like what you did.
But we're not able to raise a lot of funds, right? So I'll tell you, right? I see three types of businesses today.
Right.
Um, and I'll only take the names where I'm talking good right now, right?
Sure.
Um, most of the businesses in India, Jug, would fall in category
Hmm.
A. High scale stories sold on user growth.
Yeah.
But at the end of the it, if you think about it, none of them would be able to monetize those users. The reason being um, that all of those are services of convenience.
Hmm.
Right? Today, you need food. You get it cheaper sitting at your home than what you eat at a restaurant. Today, you need a cab. You get it cheaper than what you would have to go out on road and hail one. Today, you want to book a movie ticket. You get it cheaper than what would have happened at the ticket counter. Services of convenience typically, if you think about it logically, have to command a premium.
Correct.
India is not a market where people would be ready to pay you premium. These are good businesses, but good businesses which can only be built for a niche market, not for a mass market,
Not
because
from.
mass market will never pay you premium. A niche market
Right.
will be ready to pay you premium. As simple as
Right.
that. Good
Right.
businesses, but for a niche market.
Right.
If you can sell a story where this good business is not for a niche market but for a mass market, which is never going to happen, but still if you are able to sell a story or create a business here, category A business where 80% of the businesses lie, you'll be able to raise funds. Not good business. So funding 101 but not business 101.
Perfect.
Another category of, and again, I mean, backed by good pedigree. It's very important. Pedigree not just in terms of education, it could be your work ex, it could be your education, right? So that's first category. Another category is where you're building for a niche market, small market, or even a big market, but going really slow, honing the product, not burning cash to do it, right? If there is no scale in the business and fast scale in, not just scale, right, but quick scale in the business, to be honest, it could be good business, but it is not a ventureable business. It is not a venture capital business.
Funding
And,
friendly business.
yeah, and not for any fault of their own.
Yeah.
They're also in a business to make money of money.
Right.
It's the third category of business, which are what I am fond of,
Mm.
which are businesses that go really slow in the first 4 or 5 years,
Mm.
right? And then they just take off. Take QMath, for example.
Right.
Not to say that the product is without its fault, every product has its fault.
Right.
But QMath, I mean, people heard about QMath probably 4 years back. The
Yeah.
company has been in the making for more than 10 years now,
Okay.
right? The first 4 or 5 years, nobody knew about the product. And
Hmm.
then people started, and similarly, I mean, not to say anything about where they are, but even Byju's started like that, right? They're just
Right.
honing the product human, and then when it really took off, right? And you wouldn't have seen them laying off people. You wouldn't have seen them, burning cash like crazy. They have not raised like billions and billions of money. They have, if I'm not wrong, they haven't even raised hundreds of millions of money,
Right.
right? But they have raised money. They have been able to raise money, decent amount of money, if I'm not wrong, roughly 80, 90 million, and building a good business off, right? So if I have to answer your question, uh, just figure out whether you're a mass market product or a niche market product. A good pedigree is important. If not in education, get a good work experience. Build something for somebody else before you start building something for your own. Right? Be a good storyteller. That's non-negotiable, not just for funding, but also for making sales. You have to, as a CEO, you have to be the first salesperson in the company. Right? Figure out the right market. India might not be the right market for you. It could be US, for example. Right? Figure out the right market for you. These 4 or 5 things, and the last and the most important thing, figure out the right investors for you. At every stage, I mean, at idea stage, if you're reaching out to Sequoias and Tigers and SoftBanks of the world, you will end up getting disappointed, getting a lot of no's, and also at times, burning bridges with them because they would have already spoken to you 5 times.
Right.
You've lost your counter. It really doesn't help. It's good. Find out. All investors have a network effect. Get probably 5 great CEOs on your cap table to begin with. They'll have their own network to help you introduce
Hmm.
to bigger ones when the time comes for it.
Hmm.
So figuring out the right investor is also very, very important. Often understated aspect of it, but I would say this comes right on top actually.
Great. No, a very interesting point because it's usually when you want to get funded, you just want to get funded, right? For people who don't know, maybe. So when you say this, does it come by experience or
It
you?
does. It does. It does.
Okay. So can you elaborate a little bit more on that, Rohit? Like when you say it is important to choose investors, can you, probably share some important red flags and some important green flags to look for?
Um, Without taking names, 10 days into the business, I got an email from somebody, an associate at a VC firm, saying that, they've seen us, they wanted to talk to us and all of that. And I was on cloud nine. I said, boss, have we cracked something really well that, these guys are reaching out to us? Because I'd been an employee earlier. I'd worked with Zoomcar and
Zoom
Ola,
car.
and
Right.
there, the investors are the bad cop, right? Whenever you can't get things done by employees, the investors have asked for it. And then I had worked with Biswin as well, right? And
Right.
it's like they're demigods when you're an employee, right? And you're like, these demigods are reaching out to you and all of that. Then with time, within 6 months, you try and you understand and figure out these guys are also doing their job. They have X numbers of meetings to take, so they'll take meetings with you, try and understand your business, right? That happens. Then obviously, I had certain connections, so I reached out to them, right? I reached out to them within 2 months, then in 6 months, then in a year, and then they would stop responding because they know that you're not ready for them, and this leads to a lot of uh, it also somewhat burns those bridges where you'll also not reach out to them anymore, and also creates a certain dent in your confidence.
Right.
Correct. So yeah, all of this happens. Having said that, during the last stages of my business, what I realized, not of the business because the business is not dying anymore, but during the last 3 4 months, the VC community is one of the most friendly communities, right?
Okay.
Those
Hmm.
demigods that you fear reaching out to or fear talking to, they're one of the most helpful people when it comes to help you connect with people. You just have to ask the right questions. It is my fault if with 10 users I reach out to a Sequoia asking for a couple of million of dollars.
Right.
Right? It is my fault. So that's why I said you have to figure out who the right investors are for you. It is not Sequoia's fault who they fund. It was my fault I reached out to them at the wrong time.
Right.
Understand what I say?
Yeah.
So that's what I mean. If you go
Hmm.
and reach out to them for something else, let's say, can you connect me with somebody else? I mean, partners at Sequoia, partners at the best VCs firm that whether you've heard of, and I'm talking Matrix, I'm talking Omni there, I'm talking, Excel, I'm talking, I think I've taken Matrix name already. All of these are super friendly. But if you
Right.
reach out to them at a stage where you're not relevant to them,
Yes.
it's fruitless, right?
Right.
So not to their any fault, but you need to understand who you're from, right, fit out. That's one. Two, at times you will find certain individuals who would be ready to give you a check that is good for your requirement. Somebody you got 3 individuals who are ready to give you a 2 3 CR check, which is good pre-seed money, right? But that might not be of any help because these guys are also starting as angel investors. They
Hmm.
don't have a network of their own. On the other side, for example, let's say you go ahead and raise capital from a title backed by Kunal, or raise capital from Kunal Shah or any, then you essentially tap into their network as well, and not
Right.
just their network for funding, their network for business as well.
Business.
And not just that, you have a brains trust of their own. Obviously, they're not going to be available to you once a week because they have their own business to handle and they have 50 companies in their portfolio. But you do have a certain brains trust where you can go and scratch their minds once a month, and it's going to be way more worth than anything else in the world. That's why figuring out the right investors, not in just terms of scale, right, but also in terms of connect, network, sector relevance, and all of that.
Got it. Makes sense. Rohit, when do you think, when can somebody who's starting an edtech business, say who's running an online tutoring business, from a numbers point of view, when are they ready for their first outreach for an investment? Like you said, with just 10 users, you cannot go and reach out to big investors and stuff like that, right? So what are these combinations of numbers, 10 users, so much of revenue, etc., etc.? What are these basic numbers that you need to kind of, rack up for you to go reach out to investors?
There is no right answer to that, to be honest, Jug. If you look at it, right, um, I think Gaurav from Unacademy raised money there when they were only a YouTube channel. So to say, only subscribers, no users as such, right? He didn't even have a monetization plan at that point of time,
Right.
but had a channel which had a great hook. People were coming again and again taking the videos, and he had a story to sell at that point of time. And now, obviously, a big business, right? So you cannot have so many users, revenue, XYZ. A lot of well-funded companies are. It's more when you're raising money, you're not raising money based on where you are now. You're raising money where you would be 2 years from now. Those
Right.
are the right set of investors. So it's to each its own. I mean, if somebody, for example, is building for the lack of anything else, and it's stupid so to say, but if, for example, building a chat GPT for kids
Right.
in education, and I don't know what happens to people like Doubtnut at that point of time, but still, right, if somebody builds a chat GPT for kids, and at ideation they might be able to raise money because AI is the wave everybody is riding right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Might not be the case 3 years from.
Mm.
If you were building an upscaling business 3 years back, you could
Right.
have probably gotten funded if you had just two cohorts of 10 people each. Not today, because there
Right.
are already so many upskilling platforms. So it
Right.
depends on how niche you are, where you're getting into, how competitive that specific playing field is, and so on and so forth. There's no one right answer to it.
Got
But
it.
if
Makes
you are in
sense.
a place which is crowded, which has a lot of players, then yeah, revenue and operating margins have to be really solid. You cannot get funded at ideation for sure.
Got it. Got it, Rohit. So, Rohit, now coming back to the present, right? Not coming back to the present, coming to the present. I was just going through, anything on the internet for me to kind of pick up and, talk to you about. And I found this article on your story saying that, Dux is winding up operations and they're going to be closing down by March 2023. And we had a brief chat a couple of weeks back, and then you said that is not the case. So what's going on? What's happening with Dux?
It's interesting, actually, right? The maximum PR we got was when the news of our winding down came, not even during funding. That
Right.
doesn't matter. And not just your story. We were on VC Circle as well. We were on
Okay.
Mint as well. A couple of other articles were forwarded to me. So this is a way. When we're not able to raise funds, Chuck, and I'm going to be completely transparent and honest, right? When we got into this, like I said, we left our high cushion, well paid jobs to
Right.
do. One thing that I realized, and this is in retrospective, you always have that hindsight bias. You're always more intelligent
Yeah.
than you were yesterday, so to say. So we realized that we neither 20-25 year old where our expenses are well in control. So you have limited expenses, nor are we 50-55 or have done something significant to have so much balance in the bank that I need not worry about managing my house. So when we came into it, with a timeline of roughly 3 years. We'll see what happens, what doesn't, and all of that, right? At this point of time, we realize that, like I said, the business is going to take a lot of money to be built because it's a market making exercise. We're not able to raise those funds. While our existing investors were ready to put in money, there was no point taking, the kind of money and then burning it and being coming back to square one for this. So at that point, we decided there is no point to continue with this business. That's the point. And so, what to do with them? Fortunately, we were always, because we set right systems and processes from the beginning, we're always lean. We said, hey, there will be no layoffs. We have made from, and this is, I'm talking June, July last year, right? There will be no layoffs. We have made promises to the parents, though we take monthly subscriptions. It's not like we have taken annual money from anybody, but still, we have made promises that, hey, when somebody came to us, I said, hey, I'll take care of you when you are in grade 8, 9, 10, whatever. I don't want you to look for another tutor for this year while you might be having your exams right now. I don't. So we'll continue till March. That's what we decided. We stopped withdrawing salaries roughly 5 months back because our
Right.
salary was putting a pressure on cash burn, and the business was able to sustain with the cost of interest. At this point of time, we said, hey, it doesn't make sense for us to exist. Let's stop operating. We spoke to our investors. They were okay with it. While perseverance is important, it's also equally important to know when to stop.
Right.
Right. So we took that path. We wrote to a lot of investors during this time that we're looking for alternate opportunities uh, to move out of this, work with other companies as such. Right? And then we started announcing our decision to parents and teachers.
Right.
The reaction from parents and teachers was so overwhelming.
Okay.
The teachers, Jug, you wouldn't believe, on our Telegram group, were ready to waive a fee for 3 months. Said, we'll not take
Wow.
any, sir. The parents were ready to pay more fees, say, just continue. I mean, I obviously don't have millions. We had, in thousands of students, but this kind of response made us go back
Hmm.
and evaluate what should we do, because it looks like we have done something right.
Yeah, fundamentally, it's all right
Yeah,
if this is the response.
yes. And even if you look at the product, when I tell you, the product will say, okay, this seems right. And I think, see, at the end of the day, there's nobody else to be blamed. We are to be blamed. We might not have done everything that can be done on the growth side of business. If you ask me, there are 5 different things that we could have done, but we haven't done.
Right.
But at the same time, we cannot afford to continue to do this,
Yeah.
right? Because we have our own lives to be taken care of.
Yeah.
So we reevaluated everything. What
Hmm.
should we do and all of that.
Hmm.
Now everything goes back to setting of right systems and processes, right? For the
Yeah.
last 5-6 months, all three of us, me,
Hmm.
Udit, and Manika, we had been busy speaking to investors, and we're not able to pay attention on the business. Yet a team of 3 interns was able to manage the business
Okay.
without burning down experience. And that says a lot about the systems and processes that we
Yeah.
set.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we said, and we spoke to our investors, Malpani Ventures, and Dr. Anirudh Malpani has been very, very kind with us. I mean, when we decided that we'll shut down at one point of time, he would call me every single week just to check on me. How am I doing? Right. That's the kind of guy he is. Uh, and while we actually practically burnt all the money that he gave us,
Right.
right?
Right.
Uh, Still, the first thing on his mind was, how are you? Right. So we had a discussion with him, and we came up with something which I don't think anybody else would have done.
Hmm.
So we said, let's take a middle path,
Hmm.
right? Let the platform continue operating.
Okay.
An intern will take care of it,
Mm-hmm.
right? We will move out, and with the help of guidance from these investors,
Right.
we will move out of the platform.
Mm-hmm.
Everything is set, and we will start our jobs,
Got it.
right? So we move to alternate career opportunities. The
Okay.
platform continues to exist. We have made certain changes so that the platform can continue to make money, so that we can continue to pay the teachers, we can continue to pay the intern who's going to handle it, and it starts making sense. So that's where we are right now. The agenda is only to help, genuinely help people who want us to help them, right?
Great.
And we're charging 1,000, we are now charging 2,000 of them, and they're happy to do that. We
Hmm.
obviously reduce the number of students per batch. Teachers have agreed to slash down what we're paying them. Everybody has cooperated so well. Neeraj from Teacher Design has been super, super cooperative. I'm not sure if you're aware of everything that he has done for us, but he has been very cooperative.
Okay.
And then thanks to him for this. But yeah, everybody has been cooperative. So that's where we are. That's where we're saying that the platform has been put on ventilator for the next 2 years,
Okay.
right? Not for the next 2 years, as to be specific on paper, for the next 5 years, right?
Great.
And it will continue to sustain
Right.
as long as parents are happy to pay for us, teachers are happy to teach. Uh, we are very confident that the experience will not go for a toss. We are not just pulling the plug, right? As simple as that. We have built a product that means something to a lot of people. The
Yeah.
platform will run on its own. That's where we are.
Awesome, Rohit. This is great stuff. Congratulations. So it is, at this point, it's self-sustainable. The platform is going to like take care of itself
Yeah.
without any external money that's needed.
No external money. It will actually make a decent amount of money every month, so that after 4 years or roughly so, the plan is also to pay back people who have invested in us. The platform will be able to do that. So that guilt of burning somebody's money will not be in us.
No, that's a huge success in itself, right? Because at the end of the day, it boils down to basics. How much money have you taken? There are so many fancy stuff that's going on today. If you go to Twitter, social media, and all those things, all you see is how much revenue somebody is making, at what cost.
Yeah, that's
The
where.
revenue is X, but then there is a loss of 2X or something like that,
Yeah.
and it just doesn't add up. And I think in that aspect, it is still very commendable. But Rohit, looking back, if you had to do things a little differently, uh, could you have done something differently? Where did you think, like, if you were given another chance to start over, what are the things that you do differently?
I mean, like I said, there is a hindsight bias. Obviously,
Yeah,
right now, I
yeah,
can tell
yeah.
you that. But I'm really proud of everything that we put in place for as far as the product experience and processes and systems are concerned. That I wouldn't change a thing about it. The kind of bold decisions that we took in terms of even putting a monthly subscription in place in a tech market like this, I wouldn't change a thing about that. The
Okay.
thing that I would definitely change is on the growth side. I think we
Hmm.
could have done a little more experiment, a little more aggressive. It also to do with limited cash in the bank, but I think we could have done that. For example, we never partnered with schools, thinking that schools would never partner with an after-school teaching platform.
Right.
But there could have been some guerrilla tactics to do that. Now that we do have certain ideas now that we won't do it. We didn't do a lot of BTL activities also due to COVID, but even after COVID, 6 months, we're kind of in a limbo. We should have captured that. Experiments like this. But yeah, there is one area where I would do things a little differently this time. Would be on the growth side of business
Growth
for me.
side. Got it. You mean to say that probably when you start off, you think you don't have all the time, and within that, you kind of grow or attempt at bringing in as much revenue as possible with that
Yeah.
resources that you have at your disposal. Great. Rohit, another thing I want to ask you about is the whole psychological side of this, right? You said your investor was calling you every week to check in and stuff like that. That's one aspect. That's great. Nice of him to do that. But as people who's taken money to do a business, and then when you have to come to that reality that what, we might have to, probably even thinking about that whole thing of, okay, we might have to shut shop. Now, there are two things. One is your own personal aspirations are here, right? You would have started off with a lot of dreams. One is, of course, to genuinely do something meaningful to the people around you. That's one. Second is obviously this dream of coming out of the 9 to 5 grunt and, kind of having this financial freedom and stuff. This is from a personal perspective. Then there is a second thing about the investors, hovering around you. If not physically, it's there in your mind, right? In your case, how easy or difficult was it?
Um.
Although, sorry to interrupt. Although legally it's all written, they are investors. It's not that you need to give back money and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, the way we are conditioned is, when you take money for whatever it is, the practice is to kind of give it back. If not with something, at least break even and stuff. I'm asking you from that perspective.
Uh, two two aspects to it. One is personally, just for me, as long as I mean for my personal aspirations and all of that. getting out of that 9 to 5 grunt and all of that you spoke about, right? Um, I had been at work for roughly 8 years of my life after my MBA now.
Right.
For the last 5 years, I've never seen, I mean, I've never seen job or work as a 9 to 5, you know, thing that I do to get my monthly salary. I've been very passionate about it from day
Right.
one.
Right.
I've always worked on the principle of one owner, not employee. Right. So even when I was an employee, I have always worked like an owner. Ownership is really important.
Right.
So not a lot of things actually changed when I became a founder. It's just that it's you who's making those calls. If I was
Right.
making 8 out of 10 calls earlier, I'm making 10 out of 10
10 out
calls.
of 10. Yeah.
That's the only delta, right? So as long as you are when you get into it, you are aware of the risk, which we were. You set a timeline to things. I think we were pretty okay a couple of weeks when we decided that this has to happen. We were pretty okay. A couple of weeks while obviously you go through have I wasted 3 years of my life? What have I
Yeah.
done?
Yeah.
This, that, all of those things, right? But I think a couple of weeks we were pretty okay because we knew what we were getting into as such. Then there was thing that how do you move from, and this was a question that every single investor, every single founder where I'm going to work potentially has asked me, how would you move from being a founder to being an employee? Like I said, I've never seen myself as an employee, and it's not like when you are a founder, the company is running on your whims and fancies. You have your co-founders to answer to, and the co-founders have me to answer to. You have your investors to answer to, right? And you take you. I mean, I've been more aggressive when I was an employee than I was a founder, right? Because somebody else's money is at
Yeah.
stake and all of
Yeah.
that, right? So yeah, that's not a challenge as such. Now, as far as taking money from somebody else, like you said, right? It's all well written in paper and all of that. So that side is there, right? After a point, you come to terms with it. You say, everybody got into, but yes, I mean, I remember when we're raising our friends and family around. A lot of friends and family have invested, but there's this friend of mine, very very close to me, and I knew what his life savings were. He was the first person to respond, and he said that I trust you, and I know that you're going to do a good thing. I have only this much, and a minimum check size or something else, right? Higher than what his savings were at that point of time. He borrowed some money from his wife. He put the money and he was the first one to wire the cash to us.
Right.
Now I might return his money, which will do, right? But how do you return this trust? That's something that you'll be indebted for throughout your life,
Right.
right?
Right.
And that is something which makes me sad at times because he had so much trust and I couldn't come up to it. It makes me happy to have such friends in my life,
Yeah.
and it makes me indebted eternal,
Right.
right? That's where we are. It's a very mixed feeling. I might have read that email probably 100 times, right? So yeah, that's where you are. But probably I think overall, if you look at it, even things like these will leave you with a positive feeling to know that you have such people in your life. My family members, Udit's family members, Manika's family members. I mean, we share the same family members, Manika and I now.
Right.
Uh,
Right.
but they have also invested their life savings. It's You just feel blessed that you have such people. You feel blessed that you have people like Mr. Malpani who keeps on checking with you, right? Uh, the
Right.
the the net of it is positive. This is how I would put it.
Yeah. I don't think there can be a better way to look at it. Uh, Rohit, one final question, especially, if there are people listening, who tried and, for whatever reason couldn't succeed, and then, who are transitioning from being founders. See, I think these people, right, people who are entrepreneurs, I think you probably going back to a job is only a cooling off period before you come back with another idea or something like that, I'm sure, because it's never going to go away from your DNA, right? So you're going to be back. But
You,
how
you'll
do
make
you?
you'll make me finding my next job difficult, Jack.
I'm sorry about that. We'll cut it off. I'm sure you. I hope you've already found your job by now. But how do you? You spoke. When employers are talking to you, obviously this founder thing is going to be there. How are you going to make this transition? How did you handle this entire situation? What's your pitch like? What do the employers actually, it's not that they don't want to hire you. In fact, they'd love you with all that experience and stuff like that. But there is something, one doubt they might have, before. So what is that doubt that they have, and how do you kind of, make them feel comfortable um, about hiring you, if you have to share a few words about
By
this?
just being honest. So you're true, right? There is that Kira being, doing your own stuff, Kira being, and you need not cut it, to be honest, right? So yeah, so I'll restart here, right? There's that Kira of being a founder, being an entrepreneur, right?
Right.
Interestingly, a new term was coined 5 6 years back, intrapreneur,
Hmm.
right? That's
Right.
the midway that you find, and which is where owner and not employee thing fixes. See, I am at a stage in my life, and this is what my pitch is. This is what being honest is. I'm just being honest about it. I'm at a stage in my life where I would honestly not take a risk for another 5 to 7 years for sure.
Right.
And if you ask me, I'm dabbling with like 7 different ideas, right? I'm excited about each one. But would
Right.
I go ahead and do it? No. This time, I cannot be, you remember I told you that, I'm neither 2025 nor have I
Yeah.
done.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
I cannot be 2025 again. But yes, I can move to the other side
You're going to be 50,
of,
55
of the
sometime.
pyramid,
Yeah.
right? So I'll transition to other side of the pyramid, either get to 50 55 or do something significant that I have enough savings in the bank that I need not think about it, which will take another 5 7 10 years for sure. And that's when I'll get into it for sure, right? I'll do something of my own for sure, but not for the next 10 years. And I'm being extremely honest about it with everybody that I'm chatting.
Got it.
Now, what is really important is also not to say yes to anything.
Right.
So the kind of roles that I'm looking at, right, is either an EIR roles, where you go and start a business from scratch within a company,
Right.
uh,
Right.
are roles where you own a certain vertical, an existing vertical,
Right.
CBO roles. These are the roles that I'm talking to people about right now, and these are the kind of roles which give you enough independence. I don't want to be fixated on just one vertical of the business, because that will become boring for me right now. And
Right.
at the end of the day, I would be doing injustice not to the company that I'm going, but to myself as well, right? So it's very important to balance that. So as long as you are honest about that, honest about what you want, and honest about what you would do next, right? I think it's all okay. See, for the next 3 5 7 years, even when so I am looking at it in a way that I am also scouting my potential investors. So my upcoming employees, investors of my upcoming employees, would be my potential investors. Hope so. You wouldn't want to, foul your relationships there,
Yeah.
right? So it's very important to be honest about this.
Very interesting. And one final question, maybe, because having been a consumer of the ed tech platforms, right? Like, there are so many out there in the market. How do you look at this market, this side, that help people like you, for example, people who want to run academies and teachers, helping them enable? Where do you see this whole industry going, or what are your thoughts on this, Rohit?
Uh, just to sense on this. And first piece is, um, I love that this side of the business exists. Forget ed tech, whatever you want to call it. We are in the business of education, right?
Right. Right.
And technology is an enabler. I
Right.
don't see any point of reinventing the wheel unnecessarily. A lot of tech products exist,
Right.
product like yours, which is great for entrepreneurs like us, because then we can focus on what is really important for our business, education.
Right. Right.
And tech is an enabler, right? Like I said, board work is what needs to be done.
Yeah.
Technology will help and enable us to do that. But the core is soul is the board, right?
Right.
So it's great that these businesses exist. Now, you would have heard news in the last 3 4 days about companies which are now trying to monetize, have raised like $500 million or are valued at that round, not
Right.
making.
Right.
And there are a lot of companies that exist like this. What is really important, I think, is for such a business, are you able to monetize?
Right.
Finding free users in the market is not difficult. But if you're able to monetize, I think sky's the limit, right? If you can back it by a very strong story, right? And that storytelling is non-negotiable for a founder. I think sky is the limit for such businesses, right? There's enough space for a lot of players to exist in this market, not just three or five, but a lot of players to exist in this market. I've looked at the new platform. By the way, it looks fantastic, much more modular.
Yeah.
Very very good. I was just playing with it today.
Okay.
Looks very good. But yeah, this is what I would have to say for it.
Great. Thank you so much, Rohit. Rohit, it's been a absolute pleasure talking to you. Very insightful. Um, it's been a very unique conversation because you're the first person that I'm talking to. This kind of a curve, right? You start something, and then there was news a couple of months back that you're winding up, and then there's a very nice news that it's being kept on ventilator, where you figure out a way that the company is going to run, but the founders are stepping away to do. This is a very unique thing that I've come across, and I want to say that it's been amazing talking to you. Lot of insights that I'm taking away from here. I'm sure the listeners also would find plenty of things to kind of understand about how this whole, especially the nitty-gritties of how you arrived at fixing up your model, how you replaced the traditional tuitions, and all those things that you spoke about has been like nothing short of brilliant. People don't have to think much, I think, after they kind of listen to you. And who knows, you've honestly shared so much that if somebody can take your thing and make it even better, I don't know what you imagined could actually be a reality in some time. And yeah, all the best going ahead, Rohit, for you. And I'm hoping that you're going to find your entrepreneurial role in the next company, except that you're going to be within a system. And yeah, and I hope you had a decent time on this podcast. um,
Definitely,
I'd love
definitely.
Great.
Thank you.
I'd love to probably have you uh, again once you're doing a different kind of an entrepreneurial role to share your experiences from there, which should, again, I have no doubts it's going to be valuable.
Thanks, Jack. Lovely talking to you. I've always, loved spoken about the journey. But yeah, it was lovely chatting with you and great catching up after a couple of years.
Likewise, Rohit.